Hello, those of you who are watching this later on either YouTube or on Facebook, if you're watching the replay. My name is Corey. I do a podcast called Existential. We're actually in between seasons right now. Hence, this is Existential Live. And I want to talk to you who are watching, specifically those who are white Christians, white evangelicals, white moderates, whatever the term is. And I say that knowing that oftentimes I have people very close to me, friends and family, who maybe don't necessarily understand or maybe do understand why I would use a label to describe the people that I'm talking to and feel like that could be ostracizing. But that's not what my intention is. And so I use that label. So I want to encourage you, if you are watching this, to share this with, feel free to share this. You don't have to ask my permission to share it. You can share it with whomever you like to share it with. But I just wanted to say something, and I won't be here long, but I wanted to say something about George Floyd. And before I even begin to talk about that incident that happened today, I just want to say, I want to take a moment to acknowledge his family, who today is grieving, another Black family, another Black community of people who are grieving yet another loss of a friend or family member due to white supremacy and anti-Black violence. I want to start there. I want to begin there. I don't want to start talking about all of the social implications, any of that stuff. I want to start there first and say my heart breaks for the family. I have not watched the video. I won't watch the video. I think that I'm torn. I have a tension with the notion that the video is necessary to show people what's really happening in the world, and also on the other side of that tension is the fact that I know that for some people, watching that video is nothing more than something to shake your head at and maybe to share it so that you can, and not in a nefarious way. I'm not demonizing anyone, but to share the video and to feel okay about the fact that you said something. Dr. King and his partners in the civil rights movement used anti-violence, or nonviolence, I should say, nonviolence as a tactic. And what they did was they would basically let white folks beat their ass so that the rest of white America would see it and be moved to vote differently, to behave differently, to act differently, to reflect on the darkness and the evil of racism and white supremacy. And that was their tactic, to say, if we do this, if we position ourselves nonviolently and we show the world who's the aggressor here, who's in the wrong, who needs to be dealt with, who needs to be addressed, who is responsible for racial divide, like who is the real animal here. And so that tactic was used and moved society forward here in America and probably around the world. I'm not sure why we still need video evidence. I'm not sure why there are people who still need video evidence, but let me like get to the point of what I titled this. Speaking of Dr. King, in the letter from a Birmingham jail, one of the one of the portions of that letter that most strikes me is when Dr. King is talking to white moderates about how they believe that time will heal this. That just give it time, be patient, and just wait. And if you wait long enough, there will be a day that sort of magically appears where racism will be gone. I mean, I think I'm being hyperbolic when I say that, because what they actually thought was that there was a generation of people who were from the lynching era who just needed to die off during the civil rights segregation era. And so they thought there's some white folks as a whole, we're good people. We have come a long way in our consciousness when it comes to racism. We're with you, Dr. King. Just wait it out, because there's good people on both sides, essentially, is what these white moderates were saying to Dr. King and why he wrote his letter from a Birmingham jail. And I highlight the idea about time because I've, in the last 3 years, heard from two different white leaders this same idea that we just need a generation of people to die off. Let me just say this to you, okay? Very directly and very honestly. I have an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old who, before either one of them were old enough to drive, get a driver's license, had heard the word or seen the word coon at school from students. We are witnessing with Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and now today George Floyd. And with what we're watching, the video, and to be honest with you, I really can't even keep up with the Amy Cooper situation where she threatens to call a police officer on a black man who just asked her to put her dog on a leash. And her exact words was, "I'm going to call the police and tell them an African American is threatening me." I need you to understand that when white people say stuff like that, it's not modern. It is rooted all the way back to slavery, post-slavery, in that era where there was a new form of slavery that emerged, where black folks couldn't do anything without being penalized for it. It's where lynching emerged from. That she could have had this man lynched by saying what she said, because that is anti-racism. When you say an African American is assaulting me, when you're a white woman saying an African American male is attacking me or threatening me, that's a dog whistle that says, come and lynch this man. And so to you who are white moderate Christians, who, if you're a white moderate Christian leader and you're watching this, you're a pastor or you're whatever, or like you're watching this or you're hearing this, like, and I'm telling you that there's no middle ground. Here's what I'm saying to you, right? And let me I want to slow down and say this as carefully as I can say this. I'm going to apologize on the front end for anything I don't say accurately. Please understand and know where my heart is, and where my thoughts are. I am 100% affirming of the LGBTQ plus community. Point blank, period, dot, as my great friend Nandi says. What I know about moderate white evangelical leaders is that while you say you are welcoming and loving to everyone, when you are not affirming church, you have decided that there is a group of people who are not fully and completely welcome. And what you have decided to do with that group of people is to say, you can come to our church, you can donate to our church, but you cannot serve in these areas. I'm going somewhere with this. Like I'm not diverting from the point I'm making. You have had, and probably still do have, racist people serving in your church, teaching in your small groups, on your board, greeting at the front door, leading people in worship, playing the guitar, playing the piano, playing the bass, playing the drums, you name it, perhaps even preaching in the pulpit. And what I've heard in essence is that we cannot come out and be very strong on racist rhetoric as a church because we don't want to alienate people. Okay. Who are we talking about alienating? Because who other than a racist is offended by anti-racist talk in church? Who other than a racist person is offended that you would come out and say Black Lives Matter in the wake of another Black body being broken due to anti-Black violence and white supremacy? If your church was full of human traffickers and also women who have been formerly trafficked, would you still stand up in front of the room and say, we cannot talk strongly against human trafficking because we don't want to alienate anyone in our space? You forfeit your right to be a Christian church when you say things like that. When you hold space for the evil of racism like that, even though you're peering outside of the windows of your office and you're seeing that there are Black bodies dropping in the street. I have been saying for the last 2 weeks that when I start to lament one Black body, that there is another one following, that there's another one like right after it, that I can't keep up with it. And I said it thinking, surely there will be weeks that go by, months that go by, hopefully 6 months that go by before there is another major public, widespread, heavily viewed incident anti-Black violence. Since I talked about Breonna Taylor a week ago from this past Sunday. So what are we? We're now, I don't know the math on that. 10 days later, I'm here. I'm back again talking about another body that's dropped in the streets, which suggests to me, knowing that we live in an era where there's cameras everywhere, where these sorts of incidents go public like that, that for a white police officer to do what he did to George Floyd is absolutely a indication that they really just don't care. There was a white person in the South from the early 1900s to late 1800s who said that in the South, killing a Black person was the equivalent of killing a flea. That was years and years ago. I'm not sure it's still not true. And I know some people will come out and be like, oh, Corey, that's too much. You're being extreme. It's, it's too much hyperbole. It's not helpful. If I kill a flea in my house or any sort of insect, if I kill a mouse in my house, a bat, if I kill a snake out in my front yard, there may be some animal activists who are upset that I killed a wild animal. I'm unlikely to go to jail for it. I'm unlikely to suffer any heavy consequence for it. When a police officer, when a white citizen kills a person of color, American history has shown us that the end result is no different than if I go outside and cut the head off a snake in my front yard. So as I close, I didn't even come in here with any sort of like, here's exactly what I'm going to say. I just knew I needed to say something. I needed to process what I'm feeling right now. I needed to say some things out loud. I needed to plead with my brothers and sisters who are pastors, who are Christians, who lead small groups, who are parents, who lead organizations, who are bosses and lead departments. I needed to say to you today that there has to come a moment where you stop waiting for time to do the work that you have to do. Time is not going to do implicit bias training for you. Time is not going to help, going to cause you to go to people who can help you craft language to actually deliver a truly anti-racist sermon to your congregation. You have to do that. That's all I got, folks. I'm done. My prayers and thoughts are with the family of George Floyd, as well as with Amy, the victim of Amy Cooper's situation. That dude, like, that's traumatizing. I mean, yes, he's videotaping it, and I'm sure he's fine. He's still alive, thank God, but he's dealing with trauma. I mean, you think about being in the park and have somebody come up to you and threaten to call the police and threaten to have you lynched, and see how you feel afterwards. So let's be thinking about them today. Let's be praying for them today, those of you who pray. God bless you all. See you next time.